Hey guys, so this will be a video on support and resistance, guys. I'm gonna be simplifying how you can use support and resistance. So now let's go with what is support and resistance, right? So I'm just gonna give you different analogy here, examples for me to explain how support and resistance works, and you can use that on the real chart as well. So let's see. I'm gonna draw. Let's see. This is an uptrend, and this is a downtrend, right? So how do we identify a support and resistance in a trend, right? First, let's take a box right here. So right here for this uptrend right here, this is uptrend. For this uptrend right here, this would be a support area. Right? Then right here will be our resistance. So basically what that means is, right? What that means is, so for people to understand anymore, there are like few terminologies that people use to understand it. For those that are like beginners that doesn't really know anything about trading, you can see the support is like the floor, right? So you can actually say support, right? Again, for better understanding, you can say, right, for better understanding, support will be also known, you can also call it floor, right? So the so it's gonna be like the zone below, that's what support to be, and resistance to be ceiling, because it's above, right? So that's how you can use this to kind of like understand what support and resistance is, just for you to know. Like I said, I'm gonna explain further with the chart as well. So it's just similar to downtrend, right? This is the support for downtrend, and this is the resistance for downtrend, right? And we know that support can also turn into resistance, right? Support can turn into resistance, and the resistance can turn into support, depending on how the price. And those are like more advanced understanding and supply and resistance, that supply and resistance can varies, right? And it's not everything, um every zone you see that should be support or should be resistant. It's more solidifiable when your support or resistance has like multiple rejections around that zone. It's solidified that zone more compared to just one single reaction at a place, and you just think that's a support or resistance. So I'm going to explain that. I don't want to confuse anyone, especially beginners. So I'm going to explain that further, that a support can turn into a resistance, and a resistance can turn into a support as price action moves, right? And another thing again is not all resistance that is a resistance, and it's not all support by support. The more zones that is rejected around the supplies and resistance signifies the zone, right? So basically that's how you draw a support and resistance, and I'm gonna show you guys on the chart on how to identify a support and resistance, and I'm gonna show you support and resistance strategy that you can use to do your chart, right? So now let's go to the chart and see. Let me delete. Let's go to this chart and see. Mhm. So we can see right here now, let's identify a support and resistance, right? For beginners, to be honest, I would advise you to actually like zoom in more so that you can see like the overall of how the market is. So you can see that now that you zoom in, it's more compressed and you can see the price action way better, right? Because you zoom in, and that's how you can identify a good support and resistance. And it doesn't have to be very clean like the textbook, to be honest, and that's how like advancement coming. You'll know that it does not have to be really clean, right? You just have to be a good supply and resistance. So now, based on this price action that we are looking at, we are going to identify a good support and resistance, right? So first, let's see this particular up here. This place right here would definitely be a good support, right? So, sorry, a good resistance. So let's see right here. We can see if I have right here to here, right? If I even zoom to the left side, right, we can see that we've reacted around this area quite a number of times, right? Here, here, here. This is a really good resistance because it has tested time, and there's an higher chance that when the market get there, it might reject. Is it always 100%? Absolutely not. Just because it has tested that zone so many times doesn't mean it's unbreakable. That's a lie, right? It just means that there's an higher chance of whenever I get that it's gonna reject, right? But since even if we see any breakout out of it, because it has been rejecting a lot of time, there is you have to be able to check if that breakout is actually like a false breakout or an actual breakout, because the zone as is very solid, right? So when we see a breakout there, to me I rather want you to look for a retest, right? A retest to solidify that okay, it's not a false breakout, it has actually broken out of the resistance zone, and that is why confirmation is always needed when you are trading, right? So this is a really good example of a resistance, and you can see that if I put that a little bit forward, this is our current price action here, right? And what did you see? We can see that as soon as the market got here, rejected, came back, got here, rejected, right? So this is a really good resistance, right? That's solidified a really good resistance. So now let's look for a good support, right? Let's look for a good support. Let's see, this right here is a good support, right? You can see it's a good support, right? So if you can see right around this area, we rejected here, right? We rejected here. So these are like false breakouts right here before the actual rejection made. And we can see that this might also have been like a false breakout, but because we retested here multiple times, right? And we didn't break down. So that's kind of solidified to us that the market will continue to trend to the upside because it's retested and has confirmation that the market did not give us false breakouts, but an actual breakout, right? We can also see run around this area right here. I know it's not that neat, right? Like I said, it's not going to be neat, but we rejected around this area right here. You can see. So that's also like a very, very good support, right? That we can see right around this area. That's a very good support. And that is how you identify good support and resistance. I like to identify good support and resistance that is zone that have actually been tested multiple times without breaking, or even if it breaks, it needs more solidity for it to actually continue to push the upside. And that is how I personally identify support and resistance, right? Because it's not all support that supports, right? But if it has actually been done multiple times, then there's that higher chance that that's a good support or a good resistance. And I also said earlier on that a support can become a resistance, and a resistance can become a support. And even having that even solidify that zone, to be honest, right? So now let's go back to our resistance example that I gave you. We can see that when the market was reacting here, this market right here that pushed to the upside and rejected around this zone, right? For this particular price action that I'm giving an example, it became a resistance for that price action, meaning the market is trying to push to the upside, but we can see that we are seeing a lot of rejection around that area. So that it's a resistance for this particular price action, right? So now let's go to the second analysis. Here, right here, like I said, it's not going to be perfectly neat. This is also a resistance, right? But we can also see this as like it probably forced a breakout, because when it broke out of the zone, some people are just taking the trade and pushed to the upside. But we can see that the market actually came up around this area right here and still pushed to the downside. So majority of stop loss will have been hunted when it pushed down here before we now see that move to the upside, right? So for this particular zone right here, it is a resistance for that zone, right? So that's just solidifies the resistance. Now let's see this reaction right here. We can see the reaction right here is the market was actually resistant for this zone right here, but when the market actually pushed up, retested that area, and we had this impulsive move right here. Now for this current price action, this zone is now a support and not more a resistance. I hope I'm not confusing anyone about my explanation. I'm going to say it one more time, right? So now you see the market has broken from the zone, retested the zone, solidify that the market is going to continue to push to the upside, and we have this impulsive move right here. So for this current price action, this particular zone that was resistant is now a support. Does that make sense? And that's why I say, and those zones right here, where how resistance turned to support, support turned to resistance, it solidified the zone more, right? That's an example of what I say, that resistance can turn into a support, right? So now let's go to the next price action. We can see that after this impulsive move, right, we came down to this area right here. We push down a little bit, right? This might be a false breakout because we might still push a little bit and still continue to tank to the upside. But you can see what happened. What happened was it pushed to the downside, right? Came right here, retested the zone, did not break out of the zone, retested the zone and tanked to the downside. So for this current price action, right? This now that it was a support for this price action, it has now changed back to a resistance for this price action. Does that make sense? I really hope it does make sense. And if you guys have any question, if you don't understand, if you want me to explain more, you can just put it in the chat. Then I can comment and I can just explain further to you, right? So now let's go back to the another one. We can see right here too, became a resistance here, and currently resistant. So for us to actually get a support out of the zone, we have to break out of the zone, make sure it's not a forced breakout, probably retest around this area multiple times and don't break it, then push to the upside, right? As soon as we see that impulsive move, then this zone again has turned into a support, right? So that's how resistance can turn into support and support can turn into resistance. So now it's just going to be similar to how support is as well, right? It's going to be similar to how support is as well, right? So we can see that based on support, right, we have this price action right here. We tank to the upside right here. We rejected around this area, which make this support area a resistance. There is this impulsive move right here, right? Then it tanked up, right? Then started rejecting around the zone and it then broke out of that zone. So that also solidified that the market is now a resistance. So this particular zone, based on this price action right here, is a resistance. This support area is a resistance, right? So we also have this particular area right here, which is also similar. It becomes a resistance, right? Because this is like a false breakout, including this part is a forced breakout because we didn't retest the zone to continue to push to the upside. We actually just broke the zone, then pushed to the downside, which became a resistance for this particular price action before we now see the main impulsive move, right? Which is this impulse right here came back to this level right here, retested this level right here. We see that this particular price action did not break through the zone like this. So this particular area now becomes a support for this price action because we can see the tank to the upside, right? So after then, what else do we have? We also have this area right here. After pushing to the upside, right, we came down here and rejected around this area, despite the fact that we had a false breakout, because this particular move right here is a false breakout, right? Because we can see that we broke the zone, but it did not continue to push down. We only broke the zone and continued to push up. So based on the price action for this current movement, right? For this current movement right here, this is a support for that current movement, and that is how a support and resistance can actually interchange. A support can become a resistance and a resistance can become a support, and that's how you identify it. So I hope I didn't confuse you guys on identifying support and resistance, a solid support and resistance, and how to draw a support and resistance as well. So now let's now do, they have different strategy based on support and resistance, but I'm just gonna show you few ones that I use, right? So let's see an example of this one right here. This is a downtrend, right? So we can see that we have this market coming down here, right? Pushing, coming down here, and there is a possibility that the market can come here, weak around this area and push to the upside because this is a resistance. It has tested the time of that zone and we've seen that there's a higher chance of rejection around that area to push to the upside. But what did he do, right? We broke the zone. We broke the zone. Like I said, this might be a false breakout, so you will not even, I know some people like to take trade based on zone break. As soon as it breaks, they like to take the trade. Like I said, do whatever you like, right? But me, I rather prefer like a break and retest because retest solidify what you think it is, right? So we can see that we broke this zone right here. Now it came here to retest multiple times, right? And the retesting doesn't mean it's actually gonna work, right? Before continuing. So how will I have taken this trade based on my analysis? If you've watched my previous tutorial, you know I need three or more confluences to take a trade. I just don't take a trade based on the fact that, oh, it has been reacting around the zone multiple times. So I'm just going to take it. Nope, because you need more confluent to solidify your trade, basically. So how I have taken this trade? First of all, I'll have taken the trade. One, it broke this record, it broke the zone right here. Now we are retesting around the zone because I want to make sure it's not a false breakout. After retesting around the zone, what would have made me take this trade again, right? Is we can see that I started seeing rejection around this area, right? That's my first confluence. My second confluence is this candlestick right here. This candlestick right here also signifies a bear direction, right? So if you go to more smaller time frame, let's see. We get to that's so we can see if you come to the smaller time frame right here, right? That's the candlestick right here. After the candlestick has appeared like that in 4 hours, which will probably be this candle right here because this is a 2 hour time frame, right? Probably two candlestick and that. Then that also signifies that the market is gonna push to the upside, right? To the downside, sorry. We can see this candlestick right here. This is also a bearish candlestick. And we can see that that aligns with the 4 hour candlestick right here, right? I will have taken my trade around this area right here. And this one actually solidified it more because we had a break of structure. Sorry, a change of structure right here. This candlestick closes above, it signifies that the market is going to continue to push to the downside. So I will have probably taken my trade. For if you're not very conservative, right, you probably take your trade um around here. Mm, if you're not conservative, you take your trade around here. Yeah, I'm just gonna put my stop loss to this above this previous high right here. This previous high right here will be my stop loss. Then you just 1:2. Yeah, just target 1:2 of the previous low right here, which is like 1:2, right? Because the market, since you don't know how the market will react, the market can start reacting around this area right here. So it's safer to put your stop loss here, or when you get there, you trail your stop loss, right? Before then, when you see more break or structure, then you know the market is going to continue to push to the downside. So my confluence for taking the trade will definitely be one, it's a resistance zone. Secondly, the candlestick right here shows because the candlestick is also reacting at that zone, it has to react at that zone, right? If it's reacting somewhere else, you don't take it at that zone. That's my second confluence because the candlestick is showing that now the bears are in the market, right? So that's my third confluence is a chart pattern. We can see like a double top right here and hem pattern, which is a reversal pattern, right? Yeah, so that's my confluence to take this trade. My first TP definitely will be here, like I mentioned. Then as soon as I see that break of structure right here, then you can take more trades here and all that. But that's how I would have trade this particular setup, right? So yeah, so that's my three confluences for me to take the trade. So now let's go to a buy or a support, right? How would I have taken a trade like this, right? First of all, we can see that the market was pushing to the upside right here, right? We came to this lip right here and you'll be thinking, oh, maybe the market will retest or something like that, right? So as soon as the market came here and started retesting around this area right here, what will make me want to take this trade to push to the upside? Because like I said, the market might come down, break this, and continue to tank to the downside, right? So that's why you need confluences to make sure that, okay, there's an higher chance. Don't get me wrong, you can still lose, right? There's no 100% strategy, but I just believe that the more confluences you have, it just give you peace, to be honest, than just having just one confluence. So I'll have taken this trade. I'll like, okay, now that we are here, there is a higher chance that the market might reverse from here based on our previous price action, right? That's a good support area. So what will I've done is, right, we can see that the market right here came here, pushed up. I won't have taken any trade here, right? Came here again, pushed up. So as soon as I see the market coming here again to push up, right? That solidified my trade. Why? Because we can see that first of all, we have a W pattern right here, which is a reversal pattern on on the zone. Like I said, it has to be on the zone. It's not just anywhere, it's on the zone. That's my one confluence for me to be like, okay, I think because we're having this W pattern on a particular zone that has a higher tendency of rejection, that's my one confluence. Like I said, I won't take the trade yet. My second confluence is I'm gonna be patiently waiting for more candlestick to form because candlesticks tell stories. Now I'm gonna wait for this impulsive move, right? After I see this impulsive move, yes, that's my second confluence that I'm more biased towards a buy because we have a change of character, right? You have a change of character here. That's my confluence that okay, the market might come and that now there's now buying the market. Secondly, now I'm not gonna look for good entry level, right? To get my third confluence. My other levels I'm going to look for is where have been because we can also have like an internal resistance, right? So now we can see where can we take an entry here that makes sense, right? If I look left, that's why it's always good to look left. I can draw a zone here. Let me change the color of that. I can draw a zone here. Why can I draw a zone here, right? Because like I said, I always like to wait for a retest. So we can see that we had this impulsive move right here that broke this previous we can call it a lower high because if you based on this movement, which is an impulse correction, right? This is lower than this one, right? So that's why I use the change of structure instead of like a break of structure because I believe that is just like a change of structure, right? Now we can see that we saw this impulsive move right here, right? It's always coming back to retest, and retest is always where you get your entry. Which zone will you retest from? And that is why I drew this zone right here because there's a higher tendency of it rejecting around that zone. Give you an example. If I um extend this, right, we can see we reacted from the zone, reacted here. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. We reacted here, we reacted here, we also reacted here. That makes it a significant minor zone, right? So that was a support, right? Around that area right here. So that's a good way because it became a support and resistance zone, right? So which solidified the zone. So there's an higher chance of me actually buying around that area. So now let me go to my 1 hour time frame and see how I would take the trade. All right, now I have the zone. Go to my smaller time frame and let's see what happened around this area. Right, we came to the zone, we retested the zone. Right, the next candle we saw this first candlestick. Let me zoom out a little bit so that you guys can see what I'm saying. Because I like to chart with candlesticks. I enter trade with either candlestick chart pattern, right? We can see that we rejected around this area, the zone. We have this candlestick, this blue candlestick. Let me see if I can still zoom out more so that you guys can see. We have this particular candlestick. This is an indecisive candlestick, which means the market might still drop to the downside or push to the upside. What candlestick did we see next, right? So the candlestick we saw next, right, is this engulfing candlestick, right? We saw this engulfing candlestick, this candlestick right here on that same zone. That's my confluence to take the trade. So that's my third confluence to take the trade, right? So I would have taken my trade here. Then you put your stop loss below the previous low, which is here. This is the previous low right here. Just below it a little bit. Like I said, just target 1:2. Or you can target the previous high, which is here. Just depends on you, right? But to me, I still think 1:2 is a good trade, right? So 1:2, or if you want to target the previous high, then it's like 1:2, 2.7. So that's how I will have taken my trade. So this is um a video on support and resistance, and I hope I didn't confuse you guys or make it complicated. So I'm just gonna do a quick summary and recap. So basically, this tutorial is identifying support and resistance, drawing it after identifying it, and a quick strategy on how to use support and resistance. You just don't use one thing to take trade just because the zone is on the price action is under a support or resistance. You automatically take a no. You need three confluences and more to take the trade, and that's what I just explained here. And that's why you have to learn probably candlesticks, chart patterns, Fibonacci levels, and all that just to add to it to get more confluences and things. And this is my quick tutorial, guys. Hope you guys find it helpful. If you do, please don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share. And I'll see you in my next tutorial, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye.